Hi all, Rick here with a personnel file, and from the lost era of Star Trek, the captain of the Enterprise B, the infamous John Harriman, who would be remembered as the man who got Kirk killed. True or not, the Nexus encounter at the launch of the new unfinished flagship would go on to mark the career of, from what records indicate, is an otherwise decent captain. He was born John Jason Harriman II to a legacy of Starfleet officers. His grandfather fought in the Earth-Romulan War and his father was John Blackjack Harriman Sr., an officer at the time of the USS Sea of Tranquility. Harriman was born in 2259 on that vessel and moved around following his father's assignments to numerous Starfleet ships until he was 18 and he had one older sister, Lynn. In 2275, however, his older sister was visiting a remote Federation outpost for holiday from her university studies, and she was assumed to have witnessed a crime there. In response to the police filing which indicated her as a witness, the gangs killed her. He applied to Starfleet Academy 2 years later and was accepted in 2277. In his first months there, he suffered from terrible agoraphobia and vertigo from being planetside for an extended time, for the first time in his life. However, he pushed through and recovered. He specialised in Romulan studies, including counter-espionage and other intelligence-related topics, and applied to follow the Starship Command route. But at this time, his father was an admiral in Starfleet and he was placed on a fast-track program, graduating at the likely rank of Lieutenant Junior grade in 2280. There was no small amount of whispering that nepotism had bolstered his progress. He was assigned to the USS Hunley as Con Officer amid his first assignments and served there until his promotion to Lieutenant. Around 2285, the Captain, XO, Science Officer, and Navigator were killed in an attack from the Romulan battlecruiser CHR Dami while trying to rescue the SS Dakota. This left Harriman the senior officer in command. As the Romulan vessel lowered shields to send a boarding party, he himself beamed over to the Romulan ship and held its commander hostage, capturing the Dami and returning both it and the Dakota to Federation space. This daring and against the odds rescue earned him a promotion, and then between this date and 2293 he was promoted to commander. In 2293, the Excelsior refit class USS Enterprise NCC-1701-B was being constructed, and thanks to mounting Romulan tensions, it was decided that John Harriman would make a good choice. Among the many voices pushing for Harriman's position was his father. At 34 years of age, he was promoted to captain, not the youngest recorded, that was still Kirk at 32. His first assignment was the highly publicised and mostly ceremonial shakedown cruise of the Enterprise around the solar system to test its systems, with visiting legends of Captain Kirk, Scott, and Commander Chekhov. Harriman's inexperience combined with the lack of equipment on the Enterprise led to the loss of one of the two el-aurien refugee vessels, but they were able to save 47 souls before the ships were lost. Amid this situation, it was noted that Captain Kirk all but assumed command until the moment of his sacrifice. While Harriman was cleared of wrongdoing on the following inquiry, it would nonetheless haunt his reputation, considering the whole affair was broadcast through Federation space by the onboard reporter teams. Harriman considered resigning his commission throughout this time. 6 months later, the Enterprise was completed following the delays the inquiry had caused, and its first mission was to Antares to combat an outbreak of plague there. He was to courier a noted medical officer, Leonard McCoy. During his mission, McCoy initially blamed Harriman for his friend's loss, but came to empathise with the captain, advising him to fake it until he makes it. Harriman would later repeat his transporter trick against a hostile Klingon ship, this time beaming over armed photon torpedoes instead of himself. A few months later, the Enterprise took a mission to Ascalon 5, which resulted in an incident where he had to fire on a violent Ensign Demora Sulu. However, this was not the real Demora Sulu, and it was all to protect the away team. In 2294, the Enterprise rendezvoused with the USS Victory NCC-1535 to transfer Captain Spock, who visited the Enterprise B and was far more understanding of Kirk's apparent demise. From this point on, Many of the Enterprise B's missions are redacted or classified while under Harriman's command. Starfleet's intelligence made frequent use of the vessel, usually on Romulan operations or other Black Ops missions. Harriman would occasionally be assigned to undercover operations too, leaving the Enterprise in the command of the senior staff. In 2296, the Enterprise was assigned defensive patrols and waving the flag near the neutral zone. During its operations, they got the drop on the vessel of the Tal Shiar High Examiner, Rokan, in Federation territory. They captured him in his sleep and placed him in a holographic recreation of his ship, tricking him into revealing 4 Romulan sleeper agents within Starfleet. By this time, Harriman was considered one of the leading experts in Romulan tactics and operations. In 2301, he was assigned an undercover mission to Devron 2 alongside Commander Michael Paris, Tom's grandfather, and Commander Demora Sulu. In 2303, Harriman became involved with Commander Amina Sassine of the USS New York NCC-1652. In this year, the Enterprise was assigned to patrol near the Zenkethi border towards the Odyssey Star on another intelligence-gathering operation. This system is prohibited thanks to it being a point of multiversal convergence. In 2307, he oversaw extensive refits and overhauls of the Enterprise at Starbase 11. In 2310, the Enterprise B was a part of the relief efforts from the Federation to Klingon worlds, including Kudiak, working alongside Captain Kang. However, the Federation's aid on Kudiak was rebuffed by the corrupt governor, who then killed the colony to cover his illicit activities. In 2311, the Tomed incident occurred with the redacted of the redacted when it redacted and redacted. This resulted in the Romulan Star Empire signing the Treaty of Alderaan, forbidding Starfleet from developing a cloaking device while agreeing to abide by the neutral zone border, preventing mounting Star Empire aggressions from escalating into all-out war. Captain Harriman was instrumental in the incident's execution. That year, however, his father died. Following this, Harriman steps down as the long-time captain of the Enterprise B and transfers command to Commander Demora Sulu. He then marries Amina Sassine and is transferred on request with a promotion to Admiral at Large of Hellespont Station. Not the station commander, who is his wife, Captain Amina Sassine. In 2319, he boarded the USS Cassiopeia and took part in the rescue operation of some Enterprise B crew who were stranded, temporarily assuming command of the vessel once more. By 2343, he was acting as the governor of Hawkton 7, when it was attacked during the Border Wars by Cardassians, to which the USS Stargazer NCC-2893 responded. In 2371, he was informed of the true fate of Captain Kirk. From 2371 to 75, he acted as the Starfleet liaison to the Corps of Engineers until his retirement in 2375. His last known activity was in 2383, where he was still enjoying his retirement. From all accounts, his command style was rather open and less officious, encouraging questions and options from his staff, at least until he made a decision. Then it was the end of the discussion. He was perhaps a little too eager to risk himself, and I would say this was lingering self-blame, but it appears to be something he's always done. His most defining relationships was with his father, who initially placed a great deal of expectation on him before becoming disappointed, and that never really recovered their relationship. Even on his deathbed, his father never forgave his son for tiring of their family name. Harriman has always interested me as a character. I want to see the tale of an individual whose career was forever overshadowed by being the guy who got Kirk killed. And even if this is not entirely accurate, that's the perception. Tacked on to this is the backstory of his father pushing to get him the Enterprise assignment, and you've got all you need to build a character that is going to feel like an imposter in the chair, doubting their own ability and choices. And while not on screen in the books and comics, this is precisely what we get, but not all the time. Harriman is a character that has to come to terms with what occurred, accept it, and not let it cloud his present judgment. While understandably shaken after the loss of Kirk, it's talks with McCoy and Spock that go on to motivate him to remain in Starfleet. Early in his career, we can see he has promise, taking command of his first vessel in a crisis and not only saving his ship and their initial rescue target, but capturing a Romulan ship in the process with a gutsy play that could have equally got him killed. Even during the one on-screen appearance, we see him trying a bunch of options based on the limited abilities he has before not letting his pride interfere with a very public deferring of authority to Captain Kirk. Then he is prepared to risk himself before Kirk volunteers. Honestly, in re-watching the events, the only thing he's really guilty of is wasting some time trying to brainstorm ideas, but even Kirk does this as he's unaware of the very limited capabilities of the Enterprise B in its current state. As his life progresses, we see that Starfleet leans more and more on his abilities and specialities. In fact, the Enterprise B as a whole seems to act less as a flagship for the Federation and begins to be treated more of a vital piece of Starfleet intelligence's operations in peacekeeping and diffusing situations behind the scenes, especially in regards to the Romulan Star Empire, which plays to Harriman's strengths. It paints the picture of a captain that stopped trying to live up to a legacy, his father's, his predecessors, and becomes his own man. His career from outside viewing, however, is littered with red tape and several instances of misfortune, but can it really be said that it was any worse than any other captain's command? Frankly, crap happens, but the focus was just on Harriman already because of his past deeds. The Enterprise B would go on to be passed on to other captains down the line before that vessel vanished into an unknown fate. Ultimately, if Harriman was indeed the man responsible for a legend's death, and only there through nepotism, then he would not have to have considered resignation, because he would have been discharged when he failed. The fact he was not, and in fact went on to captain the Enterprise B for 18 years, goes on to show that he was a capable captain and leader with the confidence of Starfleet. In terms of viewing, well, it's rather limited, of course. The Star Trek Generations film is the only time he appears, so outside of this, I would recommend the short comic called Captain's Log. During this, we see the ship's first mission after the incident and how Harriman has to deal with it and McCoy, who is aboard. A particular favourite part of mine is when Harriman compares himself to Kirk and points out how self-assured Kirk was and how he never had to fake it. To which McCoy finds irony, claiming that bluster, bluffing and projecting confidence was about 50% of what Kirk ever did, using that as proof that despite his doubts, Harriman would be a capable captain if he did the same and even learned to become that leader. There were many other lessons the old surgeon imparted, and it's a good read. And of course, there's the novel series, from which this era derives the term the Lost Era, and one that covers the notable Tomed incident, Serpents Among the Ruins, to shed some light on just what his command of the Enterprise had entailed. So that's about that for the career and life of one of Starfleet's most infamous captains, the commander of the cursed Enterprise, and how his life unfolded. Of course, most of this is drawn from beyond the canon of the shows, but it paints a good grounding of the character. Thanks for watching. I've been Rick, and until the next one, goodbye.